Hi, everybody. So I took the plunge. I went unlimited, which means I can do more than 5 minutes at a time, but I won't make it much longer. So she was talking to the dog walker, and he's kind of weakening a little. So, um, remember, she followed the sidewalk, and the heat was a large, soggy blanket that someone was holding just above her head. Even though it wasn't touching her yet, she could feel the threat of it being dropped on her. Jessie made another left. Up ahead was Elmo Park, her favorite part of this whole place. She loved how big it was, so huge she couldn't see the circular pond at the far end. Most of the park was flat and grassy, surrounded by a winding trail lined with the elm trees that gave it its name. In the far corner stood a swing set and jungle gym that she and Anne used to play on. Remember, that's her cousin. Oh, yeah, back when they were kids, back when Anne was fun. Back when she was still Anne and not Anne Marie. Jessie scowled as she passed by the swings, then decided she'd wasted enough time thinking about her stupid cousin. Her soccer ball was still crammed under the bushes where she'd hidden it. Jessie crouched low and dug it out, then tossed it from hand to hand. If she wanted to be a starter when school starts, she needed to keep her skills sharp. It was hard, though. All her favorite drills required at least two people. If only Anne would, but no. Jessie dropped the soccer ball, enjoying the sound it made as it crushed the grass. That crinkly noise, so full of promise. She rolled her shoulders and did a few quick lunges and stretches. Then she picked up the ball and started juggling with it. She eased into it, hitting the ball first with her feet, working it up to her knees, and then finally bouncing it up and off her head. Not bad. Jessie whirled around. The ball fell from her head, bouncing to the ground and rolling until it stopped. It was stopped by a sneaker-clad foot. Jessie's eyes traced that foot up, white sock, brown shin, black shorts. A tall boy with huge brown eyes smiled down at her. "What do you want?" Jessie demanded. His grin slipped a little. "Well, I guess I was hoping you were looking for a partner." "A partner?" "You know, for soccer drills." "Soccer drills." Jessie eyed him. He looked like he was in good shape. Still, how do I know you don't stink? I mean, I don't want to be saddled with someone terrible. "I don't stink. Watch this." He took off his faded baseball cap. His thick black hair was even curlier than Jessie's, and he shoved it back from his face and stuffed his hat over it backwards, then scooped up her soccer ball. He dropped it, catching it on one outstretched foot and balancing it there. Then he bounced it up and ducked under it, catching it on the top of his head and balancing it there for a few seconds. He bounced it again, catching it on his left shoulder, then his right, then his knees, then his thighs. That took control, serious control. Jessie was impressed, in spite of herself. He grinned at her and finally let the ball drop down. "Pretty good, right?" She scowled. She didn't like his cocky attitude. "Do you actually know how to play soccer, or just a bunch of fancy tricks?" "I know how to play," he sounded hurt. "Oh, yeah? What position?" "Center forward." "How many goals have you scored? Total or per game?" Jessie thought about it for a second. "Per game." "Well, my best game I scored 8 with 2 assists." That wasn't bad, Jessie decided, but she'd never tell him her own best record, which was only 5 goals in a game with 3 assists. That's where you help somebody score a goal. Fine, she said reluctantly. I guess you can play with me. Well, how do I know you don't stink? Jessie noticed his incisors were a little longer and sharper than most people's. They dimpled his bottom lip when he smiled, giving him a mischievous look, like a fox. I don't stink, she said, and I don't need to show off to prove it either. We can play one-on-one, and I'll show you. Confident. I like it. I'm Max, by the way. He stuck out his hand. Jessie, she shook it, feeling strangely grown up. He squinted at her a second, like he was sizing her up, then nodded. All right, let's do this. Max ended up winning, but not by much. Still, Jessie hated to lose to anyone. One more time, she said, wiping the sweat from her brow with the sleeve of her t-shirt. Winner takes all. Max laughed, his brown eyes crinkling at the edges, almost closing. Okay, one more. Jessie. Jessie turned, and her heart plummeted. Her cousin was stalking towards her through the grass, her narrow face twisted in annoyance. Behind her trailed a tall girl with long chestnut brown hair and overly glossy lips. Those lips curled in a smile at the sight of Jessie. It was the kind of smile a cat would give a small, injured bird. And Jessie shivered and looked away from her. If she ignored Laura Lee, maybe Laura Lee would leave her alone. Hi, Anne. Jessie nodded at her cousin. What's up? It's Anne Marie, Anne said firmly. And Mom is furious you've been gone so long. You better come home now. Laura Lee looked Jessie up and down. I see your dad is still lending you his old shirts. How nice. Be quiet, Laura Lee. Jessie tugged self-consciously at her overlarge t-shirt, very aware of Max standing behind her. Shut up, Laura Lee, the other girl mocked. And then her eyes slid past Jessie and widened. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize you actually made a friend. She wiggled her fingers at Max. Hello. Hey, Max said, his voice deeper than it had been a moment ago. I'm Laura Lee. Max, he said, smiling his fox smile. Are you new? I've never seen you before. I'm sure I'd remember if I had. Laura Lee, we should go, Anne whispered, but Laura Lee ignored her. His smile widened. Yeah, I moved here about a month ago with my mom. Well, it was nice of you to play with Jessie, Laura Lee said, like Max was doing her such a big favor. I wasn't being nice, and he dropped away. He looked kind of annoyed. Jessie could have hugged him. We were having a good game. Oh, yeah? Well, sorry I interrupted then. Nah, it was over, Jessie says. He's pretty good, but I'm better. Max grinned and punched Jessie on the shoulder, right? There was a moment of stunned silence. Jessie felt frozen in it, until Laura Lee's squeal of laughter shattered the ice, and there was nothing but fire. Fire in Jessie's cheeks, fire in her ears, fire behind her ears. Oh my goodness, Laura Lee shrieked. He thinks you're a boy. Isn't that the funniest thing? Anne looked uncomfortable. I guess so. Jessie just pushed past them all and started home. She didn't want any of them to see her cry. Uh, sorry, Jessie, Max called. I didn't mean, see you around? You know, for a rematch? Jessie kept walking, but she lifted one arm in a wave, as if it didn't matter to her, until she let the arm fall. It felt heavy. Her whole body felt heavy, but she forced her legs to move, and as soon as she turned the corner, She ran all the way back to her cousin's house. She didn't feel like a trickle of water anymore. She felt like the stones beneath the water, worn away and beaten. That's the end of chapter 1, ladies and gentlemen. Next video, we'll have chapter 2.